or how well the Hoover would do compared to that in terms of the same measurement. I don't know, but you can skip ahead or wait till our test to see how well they both compare. Um, Next, I think one of the major features that makes Dyson so popular is that they're bagless. It's pretty awesome not to have to buy bags and install them and uninstall them all the time. It's a great feature. It's so helpful to just take the bin off when you're done vacuuming, take it outside, dump it into your trash can, pop it right back into the vacuum, and you're done. Excellent feature. In terms of how the both the vacuums compare in terms of bin capacity, the Dyson DC41 is supposed to hold 0.55 gallons of junk, whereas the Hoover Air Pro is reported to hold zero point 0.4 gallons. So the Dyson beats out the Hoover in that regard marginally. Both of the bins are very easy to remove. The Dyson, you just click it and pull it out, pop it back on. Hoover, pretty much the same thing. Pull it out, and easy to go back on. However, with the Hoover, I think there's an added complication with emptying the bin. Right here, you have to press here in order for this latch to open up and drop all the junk out into the trash can. So you basically need two hands, one to hold the bin and then one to empty it. Whereas the Dyson, I think, is a little bit more convenient. All you do is you press this button here a little bit harder, and there you go. I will vacuum that up later. All right, next up, the another feature on the Dysons is that they have washable filters. They have two filters. One is a first stage, one is a second stage filter, and I think that is excellent. Neither of the two Dysons I've owned, the DC25 or the DC41, emitted any type of nasty dander dirt smell when I vacuumed. I think that's great because previous vacuums I've owned, I kind of always dreaded vacuuming because they made the house smell terrible. I'd have people come over and just ask me, what's that burning hair smell, or what's that really nasty smell? And I'd have to tell them, oh, I just vacuumed, it's no big deal. Whereas with the Dyson, you don't get that. I think it's great. Now the Hoover Air Pro is the same way. It has two filters, and they function exactly the same way. You don't smell anything while you vacuum. Oh, actually, let me change that statement. With both vacuums, you don't smell dirt or dander or anything. What you do smell is kind of like a slight plasticky odor, which I don't think is bothersome, but it's worth noting. With both vacuums, the filters they have are supposed to be lifetime filters. You just wash them intermittently, and that's how you maintain them. You don't have to replace them, supposedly. I haven't had a Dyson vacuum for longer than 2 years, so I don't know how they'll stack up. I've never owned a Hoover bagless before, so I don't know how that's going to work in terms of longevity, but reportedly both vacuums have lifetime filters. Now in terms of filtration quality, both vacuums are supposed to have HEPA filtration, which is supposed to be kind of like the top of the line filtration ability. The Dyson DC41 is supposed to filter up to 0.5 microns, whereas the Hoover Air Pro is supposed to filter up to 0.3 microns. So on paper, the Hoover Air Pro has the Dyson DC41 beat, but in my opinion, using both vacuums for approximately a month, I don't notice any difference in terms of the smell or the stench or anything while you're vacuuming. No issue in my opinion. Next up, another feature that's great on Dysons is that they have a 5-year warranty. That puts a lot of people's minds at ease because, or the minds of a lot of people at ease, because spending so much money on the vacuum kind of lends one to think, well, when is it going to break down? What am I going to have to repair later? What other additional costs are there supposed to be? I think it's pretty cool to know that if I'm going to spend this much money, not only am I going to get a well-performing vacuum, but I'm not going to have to spend anything else on it. It's supposed to be completely self-contained and reliable, and if it's not reliable, the company is going to take care of it. Well, in comparison, the Hoover Air Pro has a 5-year warranty also. I think that's great. So basically, you get kind of the same deal with the Hoover. Next up, another feature on the Dyson, which I think is cool, is that it has a detachable wand. It's just kind of a full, complete system. You don't have to go into your closet and pull out another wand and attach it. You can be in the middle of vacuuming the house, just stop and pull off the wand and use it. I think it's a pretty simple process. Right now I have the cord on because I'm not vacuuming. If you're vacuuming, obviously the cord would be off. You just turn that down, throw the cord over there, and this thing right here comes up and the wand just comes out. Pretty simple, but I think it's pretty cool. The DC-25 I owned had the same feature, although it was designed a little bit differently. Now, in comparison, the Hoover Air Pro has pretty much the same thing. Basically, all you do is you press down on this button here. Remember, I'm doing this all with one hand here. I'm holding my my camera phone. So you press down, and this comes out. Pretty cool, pretty simple. And one thing I really like on the Hoover that the Dyson doesn't have any longer is that the Hoover has this metal wand right here. The Dyson's wand is plastic. In fact, most of the things on the Dyson are plastic, and I'll talk about that in just a moment, but that may be an advantage in Hoover's court here. Now, considering the detachable wand, you also have the hose to deal with. Both vacuums have a hose that go from the vacuum to the wand. The Dyson DC-41 has a hose that is 15.4 feet long, and the Hoover has a hose that is 12 feet long. Okay, well, it sounds like the Dyson has a Hoover beat, but let me state this. One of my gripes with Dyson, and I don't have many of them, is that the hose here is actually very stiff. If you look at the reviews on pretty much any Dyson out there, a lot of people will complain that the hose is very stiff. So you can detach the wand, leave the vacuum where it is, start vacuuming, and as you pull away from the vacuum will want to tip over. The hose may be longer, but it's not as flexible. So you kind of ask yourself, well, what advantage does the extra length give me if I can't use it? Looking at the Hoover, their hose is actually very flexible, much more so than the hose on the Dyson. So I think even though the Dyson has a reportedly longer hose, the Hoover probably wins out in terms of functionality. And I think that's important here to consider not only the numbers on paper, but the overall functionality of both machines. Next up, Dysons are cool because they have various attachments you can use. So with this one, and I think almost all Dyson vacuums will have several attachments that are attached or on the vacuum itself. So you have like a upholstery or stair tool, a dusting brush, and like a crevice attachment, and they all just kind of snap in place there very conveniently. And I'm not going to pull this entire thing out, but what I like is the attachments go right into the wand and snap in place very firmly, and it just goes in there very strongly. You know where it goes, and you know when it's going to stay there because it clicks, and you have a little button to release it. Let me go ahead and pull that out. There we go. So that's how the Dyson works. Well, Hoover recognized that advantage and provided little attachments of their own. So this is what Hoover provides. Kind of the same thing, a little dusting tool. This right here, let's see if I can get it to work. One hand. Press that. And you got your little crevice attachment right there. All right. And the wand, as I've previously shown you, pops out. Let me make sure that the bin is in properly. There we go. The wand attaches like that. And I want to show you one thing I don't like about the Hoover, and this is, I think, a matter of taste, not functionality. But you see the attachment here, it just slides on the end of the wand here. There's no click, there's no like predetermined spot you have to put it in order for it to go on. You just pop it on, and you get it on there nice and snug. And to get it off, you just kind of pop it out. It works. I don't think there's anything wrong with the function of it. but it's kind of like the overall look and design of the vacuum I don't think is as detailed as with the Hoover. That's just personal preference. I don't think it's going to affect how you vacuum at all. Um, Also, in addition to that, both vacuums come with a nifty little attachment that kind of allows you to vacuum areas without using the cleaner head. So Dyson provides this thing. They call it the tangle-free turbine tool. I use it to clean our couch, and it's supposed to prevent hair and stuff from getting tangled in the brush. I think it's a pretty cool attachment. I'm not sure how much better it is than a typical brush attachment, but it works, and that's what Dyson provides. Well, Hoover, I think Hoover provides this with many of their vacuums, especially their pet versions. Hoover provides this guy right here. So very similar. The brush itself is powered by the suction of the vacuum, just like with the Dyson here. I must have cut my finger on something, but same principle. You can use it on the couch, stairs, whatever, and it will just agitate much better than, say, this attachment right here, where you just had to rub it back and forth constantly. So in terms of the performance between these two attachments, I don't know. I've actually barely used this thing because I don't vacuum the couch very often unless it really looks like it needs to be vacuumed, and this thing I just haven't used before. My guess is that they're pretty comparable, but both machines have this attachment, which I think is cool. Next up, another thing that makes Dyson pretty well sought after is the fact that it's pretty maneuverable. One of the trademarks of a Dyson is that they have a ball, and the ball allows you to kind of turn your wrist and, sorry, there we go, turn your wrist and then go different directions very easily. So with a traditional vacuum, you have to go back and forth and kind of move it like this in order to get it in a certain spot. But say you're vacuuming right here and you need to get, let's pretend this is a chair, you get in here, you just kind of turn it, get in there. It's pretty cool. I really like this feature. I liked it a lot on the DC-25 I owned, but in my opinion, the DC-41 does not work as well, and I think that's due to one thing primarily, which is the redesign of the ball. The DC-25 came with a solid ball, and it had a hose that went from the cleaner head back around, I think, into the back of the vacuum here. Well, with the DC-41, they wanted it to look more sleek. I think just look more pretty overall. I mean, it's easier to sell a product if it looks better, and I think they've accomplished the looks portion. Yeah, I mean, it's an excellent looking vacuum, but with the redesign, you don't have a solid ball. So this right here moves independently of this one, and you know, it flexes a little bit, and ultimately what that results in is a little bit less maneuverability. But it's a plus side of Dyson's, which a lot of people love. What I think Hoover did that's very excellent with the Air Pro is they've basically copied the same functionality of the ball without using the ball. I don't know if Dyson has the ball trademarked or what, but all you do is you put your foot down on the cleaner head, pull back on the vacuum, and you have the same exact functionality of the ball without the ball. And in my opinion, this works better than the ball on the Dyson DC-41. Hoover did an excellent job. So you don't have what some people may argue is a gimmicky feature, but you still have the functionality. I think that's great. Hoover did a great job of that by recognizing the advantage of that function on the Dyson and replicating it, I think, in a better way. Next up, I think what makes Dysons popular is that they look cool. I've kind of already talked about that already. But overall, they look really nice. I don't think I need to explain that much more. But yeah, and the Hoover, I think looks pretty good. I don't think it looks quite as good as the Dyson, but this is all subjective. I'm not going to spend much more time on it. You guys know what you like, and you will act accordingly. Some of the other features of the vacuum, I think, are the cleaning head. The Dyson DC41 has a. Let me go ahead and move this so you guys can see. Has a very unique cleaning head. It adjusts to compensate for either use on carpet or moving on to hard floors. This is a unique to Dyson as far as I understand, and it's only used on this model and the Dyson DC40, I believe. I don't know if any of their smaller vacuums have it, but in my opinion, it works pretty well. And I'm just looking at this here. One of the things that kind of bugs me, and it's a small issue, is you can see this part right here. This is where the belt turns the brush roll. Well, basically, you're not getting any agitation right here. You have the brush on this side, you have the brush on this side, and you don't have anything here. And you can actually see that reflected in the marks on the carpet. So that kind of bugs me a little bit, knowing that just a little strip of carpet wherever I vacuum isn't getting agitated and probably isn't getting cleaned as well as the other parts. Kind of a nitpicky thing, but it is what it is. But one thing I do like, and I think this is on many Dyson vacuums, is that the edge cleaning is usually pretty good, like right up against walls and whatnot, because this right here is so thin. You get agitation very close to the side of a wall on both sides. So I guess this is going to have to be somewhere, whether it's on the side here or in the middle. It's going to be somewhere because the brush roll needs to be turned. That's just a fact. But like I said, that bugs me a little bit.